Now our second speaker is João Graça from Unbible.
Okay. Hi, so my name is João. I'm one of the co-founders and CTO of Unbible. And Unbible is an AI company that is now focusing on translation. So our goal is to be the translation layer of the world. And why is this important? So going back to the previous conversation, the previous presentation, the world is changing. So in 1997, 80% of all the content on the internet was English. Nowadays, this is only 30%, and the trend is continuing. And this is very important, first of all, because if you're a company trying to sell to your customers, like we also learned from the previous presentation, you have to talk the customer language. So someone is much more likely to buy a product if the website where they're going is on their actual language. So this is a big problem, and we basically want to try to eliminate these language barriers. Another interesting phenomenon is that if you take all the translation companies in the world put together, they're able to translate at most 1% of the content that is being produced every day nowadays. So there's obviously that there has to be some other solution, and there's machine translation. And the question is is machine translation really there for you to use as a final translation? So in the last 2 years, there was this big movement on machine learning as a whole of going to neural models, so deep learning, and they pretty much are winning on all sorts of competition nowadays, and this includes machine translation. So after 2 years, it's pretty obvious that these models behave better than the previous statistical models that we had. We tried this at Unbible, and we observed the same thing. Just to explain you a little bit, so basically, Moses is a standard phrase-based machine translation system, which was the best until 1 year ago. There's a new neural machine translation model. When I say generic, it's something like Google. So you basically have a huge amount of parallel data, like sentences in one source, in one language, sentences in the other, and you trade them. And when you say adapted, it's you take this generic model, you take some customer-specific data, and then you train a little bit more just for that customer, and the performance increases a lot. So neural machine translation models are there, and the question is are they there? So this is a very interesting blog post from Google where they present new models claiming that it was almost close to human. It was interesting in two ways. First of all, everyone in the industry got pissed off because this is not true, and the evaluation was done in a very bad way, and this was completely a marketing post, not vouched by the research community at Google. On the other hand, because our customers start thinking more on machine translation as an option, because if everybody is saying that the language problem is solved, then it might be solved. So basically what I want to explain here is some views that are about the problem. So let's assume you run 100 jobs or texts by a machine translation engine, and then MQM is the human quality metric for evaluation. So you take the linguist and it takes all the errors that you have on the job, you score them as minor, critical, or major, and then you have a score. And supposedly on top of 95% is professional quality, so all is good, and then below is kind of bad. And the main question we have to ask is, me as someone who's selling something, am I okay with sending some red dots to our customer, where the translation is going to be wrong? In fact, it might be really wrong, saying something different. So one view is that it's okay. So we're basically going to serve machine translation because it's much faster, it's much cheaper, and eventually the algorithms are going to catch up. And the other view, which is the one that Unbible supports, is that no, that is not okay. Because if you go to a website and you see a product description and it's full of errors, your confidence about buying the product is going to decrease a lot. So instead what we think is we need to combine AI with translators, with humans, and basically keep the quality stable at the professional level, but then in time reduce human effort. And now I'm going to tell you how we do this. So let's get back to this, just memorize, green dots good, red dots bad. And so what are we doing? So basically you have a job, so a piece of text that needs to be translated. We first send it to our machine translation engine, and then the big piece is this quality estimation, which is something that tells you is the translation good or not. And then if it's a green dot, fine, we just send it to the customer, super fast, super cheap. If it's not, we send it to our crowd of translators to correct the output, send it back to the quality estimation, do the same test, and we do this loop. And the really cool thing about this is this is an amazing data generation machine. So you know that data is the oil of machine learning, so you can only improve if you have data. And every single document that passes by Unbible is generating this data to train all our algorithms, because we have the source, the machine translation, the human translation, the annotations, and everything. On the other hand, the fact that we as a company are doing the full pipeline, from like talking with customers on the integrations to the machine translation to the editing interfaces, means that we actually have very interesting data. Instead of like the usual parallel data, like source and target, we actually can track mouse clicks, key presses, timestamps. We can aggregate them together and start understanding what the person is actually doing to transform a machine translation into perfect translation. And this is really cool data. So what I'm going to talk is basically the three parts of the pipeline. So the machine translation, the quality estimation, and then the part of the community. So in terms of machine translation, we have a pretty straightforward pipeline. So a job comes in, we check if there's like sentences that have been completely translated by humans for that particular customer and origin. We can reuse those. Then we send them to our machine translation engines. And the way that this works is, if we have a specialized machine translation engine for you as a customer, we use that. Otherwise, we back off to like a domain machine translation engine, otherwise to a more generic machine translation engine. After that, we go to what we call automatic plus editing. So the idea here is to try to learn from the additions that the editor do and do them automatically. So all of this is reducing the human effort along the way, and then we have the result at the end. Like I told you, we used to be using like the phrase-based machine translation system, which think about Google 6 months ago, where basically we were given a source sentence, you chunk it into small pieces of words, and then you translate each one of them individually and combine them to sound good. So those models are normally, they're adequate, so the translation says what it should say, but it sounds a little bit robotic because it's chunking and merging. And now we move to like neural machine translation, which is basically this kind of magic thing that you have a hidden state that grabs all the history, and then you process one word of the source sentence at a time, you get this huge vector of numbers, and then you start generating words on the target. What happens is much more fluent, so it doesn't sound robotic. When it makes a mistake, it might make a really critical mistake. And this is kind of the challenge that people are trying to tackle with it right now. So the question is like, a lot of this is about, can we customize a machine translation engine to a particular customer and improve quality a lot? So I'm showing here, and blue is like the standard machine translation metric, is that if you compare like Google machine translation system with our generic machine translation system, they're much better because they have much more data, much more CPUs, and much more people actually improving the model. But it only takes around 1,000 sentences for a particular customer for us to be as good as Google, and then as you keep having our customer data, the quality keeps increasing. So you can see how cool this is as we onboard the customer and keep growing. So now I want to talk about quality estimation, which I think is something that people are less aware, but it's kind of the holy grail. So the idea is that have an algorithm that given one source in its translation, say this is good or not. And this is very recent research area. It's been up like 4 years. The two main tracks are word level, so which words are well translated or bad, and sentence level. Is this sentence good enough? And in fact, one thing is, if somebody cracks this problem and has like a perfect quality estimation algorithm, then by definition the machine translation problem is also solved because you can just iterate like good, no, retrain the model, good, no. So it's very interesting, and it's getting more and more research attention. So this is an example of a phrase, hey there, I'm sorry about that. And what you want to say is like which words are well translated or not, and then you can join these into a sentence evaluation. The way you train it nowadays is you have like the source, let's say English text, the machine translation, and the correct translation. And then basically you just run the algorithm. Is it a bad translation? Is it a good translation? Feedback. Run it for a couple of days or weeks, and the system is ready. I'm just going to show you some interesting results. So we put a lot of effort on this, and basically this was the previous state-of-the-art on quality estimation. Then we tried a new linear, so machine learning linear system with a bunch of syntactic and morphologic features. Then we moved to neural. We combined them both, and we won the last year's competition, international competition of quality estimation. And then we realized something that was very obvious, which is like, if we're also actually doing automatic plus editing, the edits that you do is actually stuff that was wrong on the source. So can we use this as a source of quality estimation? It can, and you got even better results, and then if you join them all together, you have like the best system nowadays for quality estimation. Word level, sentence level is pretty much the same. The index had the best result, and then this combination gives the best result. This is interesting to stress how important this part is. The thing is, if you look at this diagram, what you need is not really like word level or sentence level. So word level is really cool to build interfaces that show you what are the things that should be wrong so the editor can go there and fix them. Sentence level we can kind of use to see how much work is expected to have. But what you really need is document level. If I give you a full product description, is this okay or not? And the thing is, like, even if all the sentences are correct individually, there might be inconsistencies, like a different tone, different choices of word translation. So this is something very important that there's no good solution. And then if you actually send it to humans, then you need to have like human document quality estimation. And this is also very hard because most of the previous algorithms are basically capturing the systematic errors that the machine translation does. And this is something that we've been working a lot on the last year, and we have some very interesting numbers coming soon. And I think it's going to be really cool. So now we try to do the best we can with the automatic parts. So machine translation, quality estimation, skip some jobs, and now we're back to, okay, now we need the humans. And when you go to professional translator, there are three main things. Quality, like are you producing professional quality? Speed, is it fast? Because normally when you go to like a translation agency, they talk to you in days. So yeah, you give me this job, I'm going to give this job back in 1 or 2 days. But we really focus on like communication. So emails, chat, so we want to bring this down to minutes. On the other thing is the cost. So on average, the cost per word is 10 cents. So if you think about it, one email is going to be like crazy expensive. And a lot of the contents that are growing, like reviews, product descriptions, emails, the return on investment is not enough for you to pay this price. So you need to be able to bring the cost really down. One option is machine translation. I'm going to show you the other one. And so the pillars where we're basing all of this technology, all of these ideas is A, who are the people that we're using to do the translation? B, what is the initial text that they have to edit, so the machine translation? C, how do you pick the right person to do the job? How do they actually perform the job? What are the interfaces that you provide them? And then can you evaluate the quality and realize if we need one more person or the other person? So we currently have a community of 50,000 editors spread around the world that are working at Unbevel. And an interesting thing is like we see the translation process kind of a map reduce. So it's not about the particular person, if it's fast or good. It's about the system that can say, okay, I'll give this to a person. If he did a good job, I'm fine. If she didn't, I'm going to put another person. And at the end, the process is what needs to be fast and produce quality. So we basically take a big text, we chunk it into pieces, we give it to editors on the community, they work on it, we evaluate, we give it to some other editor, we join everything together. If we need to put one editor to guarantee consistency, and voila, the job is delivered. So who are the editors? So basically, we're going after bilinguals, people that speak more than 2 languages. We also have some professional translators on the community, but we just like, if you speak 2 languages, our bet is that we can give you enough technology that you can do a professional level translation. So you come to Unbevel, you do some testing tasks, these are fully automated, which just basically tells you, do you know anything about the language, or it's just like playing it around, and you understand the platform. And then you go to a training phase where you do the jobs or tasks that you're not paid for, we don't receive any money, and we rate you. And then if you have a data that is good enough, you become a paid editor and you start making money, and then as you progress, you can become an expert on a particular client or a particular domain. Then besides this, we have the evaluators, like people who evaluate this community. These are actually our professional translators or linguists. And then we have the annotators, which is like the higher level, these are normally linguistic professors. And what these guys do is like they do a very deep annotation of the jobs. Like here there was an error, and it was a grammatical error because you didn't put the verb on the right position, or here there was a gender problem. And this is really interesting because this allows us to measure what's the quality that we're delivering every week, and also gives a lot of data to train the algorithms. And this is basically something that we use to evaluate the editor. Something that is interesting is like here we're interested in evaluating you as an editor and not the job at the end. So what I care is what was the original text that you had to edit, what did you produce, was it a nice job or not? Because one problem that we had when we were very naive and started at Unbevel is that we had this community evaluator. Everybody could evaluate everyone, and you only looked at the final output. Which means that as we have people in the chain, if this first guy did a very good job, then the second one didn't do anything, he'll still get the rating of 5, despite the fact that he might be really bad. And then when he actually had to do some real job, he would fail. The customer is going to be upset and the guy's screwed. And translation is really like a goalkeeper. You might do a lot of stuff right. If you do a critical mistake on a big document, you're screwed. So we had to change it. So the other question is like, okay, so now we know what are the texts that we're going to start from, we have all this huge pool of people, how do we pick the correct person? So I mean, obviously, different people know how to translate very different things. So if I had to translate soccer, I basically know all the terminology into English, so it would be very easy for me. If I have to translate the recipe, I don't know, for instance, a vegetable name in English. So I'll have to do a lot of research, be slow, and probably sloppy. So the idea of the editor assignment is you have a set of tasks at Unravel, and you have all the community that's available. And we work mostly on the pool, so you go to Unravel and say, give me a task. And then we have the SLA that we agree with the customers. Some jobs have to be done in like 20 minutes, some jobs have a little bit more of time. And with this, we basically set the priority and set chip use. So the red queue means like we're screwed, we're really late to do this job. So anyone that's a paid editor, just give it to him. And hopefully the goal at Unravel is that no job actually reaches the red queue. That means that we have a healthy community. And then we have the green queue, where we can pick from the available people which job to give them. And then you can say, okay, I'm just going to give them the higher rating ones, or the ones that are a native speaker of the target language. But if you think that you can mark every document with a particular topic, and there's a lot of methods to do that, then it's pretty cool because you can match the topics between editors and speakers. And basically, one experiment that we did with this is like the average rating that you get is much bigger if you actually have to use this topic assignment. So this is another very important part. So in terms of interfaces, we have the more usual web interface. So what we see here, it's like source text, target text, submit saying it's ready. You can skip if you don't want to do it. This is like the instructions of the customer. There's a dictionary that you can click on the word and see the definition. There's the smart check, which is basically a grammar checker on steroids that I'm going to talk a little bit. And basically you just edit here and you submit. Or if you really want to scale, you need to go to the mobile. And this is the same sort of interface on the mobile. Smart check is here. And this is really the way to go for us. I mean, we're the first company that's actually doing this register on mobile. And I think it's really important for the scale that we want to achieve. Another interesting thing is like we talked about speed. So if you think about how long does it take for us to receive a job from the customer and deliver it. So if we're just doing machine translation, it's easy. We do machine translation, it's like a couple of seconds, we deliver it. Once we need a human, we have like the waiting time. So that's the time that we have someone that goes to the platform and actually asks for a job. And then the time that he actually takes to fix the job. And then if you have a second person, you just double this, and this is our total time. And what we observe is like once we start having more users on the mobile, it's currently around 25%, then the waiting time reduces by 20% because the notification system works much better. So you can think about Erasmus students on the subway, gets a ping on the cell phone, gets a cell phone, corrects the translation, sends it's done. So this is really promising and we're like betting a lot on our mobile development. This is just like a curve of like how much time do we take to deliver 100 jobs on average over the last year, and you can see we're around like 20 minutes now. And this bump in the middle was because we get a lot more of demand, so we had to grow the communities. So another thing with the post-editing interface is like, okay, so now you're not a professional, you know the domain, how can we help you? And this is where the smart check comes in, where we try to highlight what I think is an error and give you suggestions whenever possible. So ideally, like all the knowledge that you need to do a task is embedded in the interface. And again, this is like spelling, tone mistakes, meaning is it formal, informal, consistency, and another interesting thing is client rules. So if you think about our model, we're going for speed, so we need to deliver stuff in 20 minutes. We have a lot of customers, so we don't have time to tell the editor, so this customer wants A, B, C, and D. So what we need is like we get these client guidelines, or client style guides that most clients have, and we put them on the interface as a client rule. So when you're editing, all the information that you need for that particular job is there, and hopefully in an efficient way that you can be super fast. And again, like I told, we have the annotators that basically mark all the errors, and voila, we have data. And then we can keep improving these results time over time. Okay, so now I told you what we call the language engine, which is this like seamless integration between humans, or translators, or editors, and the machine. We call this the language OS. And now what we want is basically to combine this in a way that we can serve customers. And most people, they don't really care about translation. They just care to communicate with their customers. So they don't want to have to like copy-paste something, send to a translation agency, return, get the response. So what we do is like we do a bunch of integrations with like Salesforce, Zendesk, Slack, and so on. And ideally, your working environment is going to be exactly the same as we were doing before. So if you're a Zendesk agent, you're just going to be on like a normal board. And what you say is like, well, I talk Portuguese. Actually, I have a slide for this. So, you know, customer service, you have a company, you start getting tickets on all different languages, and now you have two options. Either you hire people that talk all those languages, and then you have two dimensions, like skill of the customer service per problem times language, or you just hire someone that speaks English or any language per skill, and you let us take care of the problem with the language. And also this is very good for like peaks, so you have a peak in France because of vacations, and you need to hire more people, or if you want to have 24/7. So basically, I'm the agent. I say, okay, I speak Portuguese. Then some of you is like a French-speaking customer. You send an email to Zendesk. It goes through Unbevel. We machine translate it automatically because normally machine translation is enough for the amount. I look at it, I understand the problem, I put hashtag Unbevel, I reply, I send it, I receive it in Portuguese. And the interesting thing is that we did a study, like the customer satisfaction is the same that if you're paying a native agent. And we can do this on average for 20 minutes. So after the time you press reply, 20 minutes after your customer is going to get a reply in his own language. And in terms of quality, we're like professional quality. The other more interesting use case is chat. So basically nowadays you go to the site and you have to talk with chat more and more. And here you really need to be fast. The problem is like ideally you just want to do machine translation, but again, let's go back to the red dots, that can be really bad. So this was the first use case where we implement this vision. So the text comes, you run into machine translation, you test it with quality estimation, which is this case, since it's chat, the sentence level works pretty well. If it's okay, we send it to you. If not, we send back to the community. And we basically give it higher priority of all, so that it moves faster. And basically, it is still beta, so we have 3 customers on beta, so there's not a lot of volume yet. But in 2 minutes, we can get a reply. And this is like the mobile in action with the quality estimation, and the quality is around 90%. So it's a pretty cool, good use case. So the question here is like, where is the future going? And there's a lot of people that think that that number is going to get to 0. So there will be a point in time, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that no humans are going to be required. I personally believe that like on even 10 years or 15 years, if you want to have like a translation that speaks your customer voice, like we don't want Pepsi to talk with the voice of Coca-Cola, then basically you're always going to need humans for some examples. Not all of them, a lot of them are going to go automatically, but the humans are going to keep being necessary. And if you combine this with the increase of volume that needs translation, this doesn't mean that we don't need professional translators, because they're needed for some sort of content, or even bilinguals. It just means that the content that's being translated is going to grow exponentially, while the number of humans required are going to grow linearly. And that's pretty much all I have for you. Thank you.
So, questions? Go ahead.
Hi. Do you plan to have a competitor to Google Translator? So because your machine learns with the human, it's better, and it will be better because it's learning with the humans, and even if in the future I think you don't believe that, we don't know if you will need the humans and the machine will work by itself, but yours will be better because they didn't have the humans and the data in the past.
I mean, I think it depends on the time scale. So definitely, in the future, we want to be the human translation layer. Right now, we're tackling very different domains. So Google is working all its energy for this like fully machine translation system. It can translate everything in the world. And we're going more like, okay, we need to really optimize for this person, for this person. For instance, the engine that I showed you for a particular customer, if you now give it the customer service ticket, if you now try to give it like a hotel description, this engine is going to be much worse. So I think it will take some time, but we'll have a lot of data. So in the future, yes, but it's not like something that we're having right now. We will beat Google eventually, but it'll take a bit.
Hi, congratulations for your interesting presentation. I have two questions. With your experience in translation, how good do you think Google Translator is? The other question is, if you use the best algorithm today, the state of art, and if you translate War and Peace, will that still be literature?
Okay, so I think that Google Translate has been awesome for a long time for getting the gist, so getting the idea of what's there. I think that neural machine translation is fluent, which is good. It presents a problem because since it's fluent, we as humans, when we read it, we assume it's correct. But it might just drop some information on the left, but it sounds so right that we don't pick it up. But I think it's doing a wonderful job for that, not for translating. Now, regarding War and Peace, unless you have like a huge corpus to train on that data, you can just put it on Google Translate, just get some popcorn, it's going to be interesting. But no, it's going to suck.
Thank you. That's the answer I was expecting.
That's why you need a professional translators. Like, they still have a job, and a really important one, not for translating emails or chat, but for translating novels.
Exactly.
The system to recognize the question is automatic, but then there's a logistics that we have to optimize.
Good morning. I have a question about, imagine I'm a company. How do you, if I have a confidential documents to translate, is there a system to ensure that the document is not leaked or lost? Oh, I mean, is there a system that guarantees that my information keeps its confidentiality?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically, how do we treat confidentiality? So it's interesting because that was like one of our biggest concerns when we started, and nobody actually asked us for that until now. So, so there's the crowd. So the crowd has an NDA with us, things go out. What we do is anonymization. So basically, sensitive information like credit card numbers, passwords, everything is removed so you don't see it. And we're working also on like the deeper anonymization, which is like proper names, remove them. But that is a concern. But in the sense, I mean, if you remove all personal information, then the rest is okay to translate. But there's always going to be a human involved in translation, so it won't get lost though.
Hi, good morning. So languages are not static and they're always evolving. Does that play a role in your modeling and your process, or does it take too long on the evolution for you to consider that as a problem?
I mean, I don't think it's really a problem in the sense that you keep retraining your models. So, for instance, Google trains it every week, like we used to do. We retrain our models as well. So we're basically keeping up with the changes. We're getting more data. So the whole problem is like, if you're stalled in data, let's say that we only had data from 1990, then we're probably going to be screwed with some new terminology and new ways of seeing stuff. But given that like you're getting new data every week and basically the pipeline, we're just moving along. Like the underlying models don't change. It's more a terminology or some grammatical constructions.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, João.
Thank you.